This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Welcome to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on with us, and that is Stephanie Cortese of stephcmortgages with the mortgage coach. What's going on, hon?
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again. We had a pleasure of running into each other at a networking event, I think a few months ago, and full circle, you end up getting nominated on the show, and you got stuck with me. Jeff's probably a little jealous.
Oh, good. This is great. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. It's awesome.
Super happy to have a conversation with you today. So why don't we dive right into it? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your business?
I am in the business of people, and that's what really, at the end of the day, it's what it is. So I'm in the business of people, and the goal of that business is to help find them the best lending solution. Product, rate, all that's important. But one step further than that is sort of understand the goals of what they're after, the lifestyle. Like if they had a magical wand, that's all the first question they always ask. If you had a magical wand, what would it look like? And then it's about creating those steps to create that sort of financial confidence and literacy and control in order to get there.
Okay, very nice. Let's elaborate on some of this stuff. I mean, the mortgage world, a little like real estate. I mean, I think people have kind of a general sense of, kind of what it's all about, but maybe let's see if we can make a couple of distinctions here. What would be something on your side of the fence and how you run your business and who you are as a human being that's worth noting? Because you do help people with that, but what are some, what's the difference for you? Why pick you?
It's a great question. And it's actually how I started the business, is why pick me? Like really, it's really years ago, it's how I started. What can I do? How am I going to differentiate? Because there is a lot out there, and I totally understand that. And the one thing that I ask myself is, what is it? Because I've had a lot of experiences on a personal level in starting and buying a house when I was much younger and sort of that process. And it was not the most positive experience for me. It was actually very daunting, and it was very scary. And it was different answers that we got for different reasons, like rejections, because you didn't have enough credit. You have great credit, but you don't have enough credit. And I didn't understand what any of that meant. I'm like, what does that even mean? How do I get credit? Oh, you have to do it just was I put myself in that circumstance, and it's about how can I do it different? And I think the biggest thing that I offer is the empathy and approach. So it's understanding that a client is not just a deal. They approach you with a whole set of context and a story of how they got there and why they got there. And the idea is that money's a very vulnerable thing. It's a very personal thing. So when I have the trust of a client and I see into their whole lives, so I see 10 years ago choices they forgot they even made, and sort of understanding that there is a whole package there and a whole context. And whether you have $1 million or you have negative $1 million, it doesn't matter the starting point that you come to me at. It is very much about that empathetic approach. And how do we first gain the confidence that you need in order to set the goals, and then we go from there. Okay.
And so certainly tailored, I think you said people business, people person.
Yeah.
How people get treated is a big thing, big reason why they come back, big reason why they decide to make a purchase.
Yeah.
And so your personality, I'm assuming, is going to be one of the key contributing factors here.
Well, the reality is, like, the truth of the matter, as we all know, you can get a credit card online, right? Like process will continue with the AI world, right? So what distinguishes us or myself is relationships and the quality of which we approach people with, and the understanding. And like I said, I'll repeat empathy probably a few more times, because it's what I lacked in the process of me going through things when I was much younger. It's what I needed the most, and understanding and coaching as well. Like I didn't understand really what I was doing. I was a very educated person that didn't understand the basics of, you don't know what you don't know. Right. So I didn't know that until I got there. And then when I was there, I just remember feeling so little and belittled. And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And that's probably not the time that I ask those questions when we're in the application process. So that approach is what I took with me this whole time. And now my background as well is in education. So I come a little bit different in that sense too. So I am a certified teacher in Ontario, and I bring with that sort of that understanding of how can I help, but also how can I teach, and how do I create that confidence again at any age, at any level. We've all felt overwhelmed by finances as well as sort of the whole package of life. So how can I, yes, set the goal, get the loan, get the mortgage, sure, but how do I help create the goals so that hopefully one day, if I do my job well and we create that sort of long rapport, you don't need a mortgage broker. You don't need one because you won't have a mortgage. So hopefully the next time around when we see each other, we're making, a renewal, sure, but we're also making new decisions about investing, or the idea of saving, or the idea of a second property, where people don't even realize they have those options, or how do I go about doing that? Maybe it's not right now, but how do we get there next time around? And sort of that consistency throughout.
Okay, very nice. There's different components to the mortgage world. There's kind of different mortgages that are mortgage brokers, mortgage agents that have a preference, or they have a kind of a niche within the industry. It's like first-time home buyers or reverse mortgages or whatever the case is. Do you have a like a specialty, or are you just kind of straight across the board? Like, you understand it obviously very well. So anybody who really kind of needs any help, or do you kind of hone into a couple specific areas?
Great question. And I would say, I think any broker, any agent is going to tell you that the first-time home buyer it's an incredible thing, and it's for the obvious reasons. So they trust you. Once you build that relationship, that trust is very strong because they're trusting you through the whole process. Yes. But there's nothing, it's part of the reason I continued, like my business, I got really enveloped in it when I had my first time home buyer, because being part of that impactful exchange was unreal. Like it was addictive, where like just to see that sort of joy. And I went there on sort of their closing day, we had a little celebration, and then move-in day, I went in and I helped. It's unreal. So, I mean, there's always that sort of first time home buyer honeymoon, if you will, where they're great to work with. But if I'm being honest, I think where I think the universe is a real thing, and sort of what comes my way the most is individuals and families that need a little extra help with understanding and rebuilding credit. And I think it's just a natural thing with my own personality as well as my background. And I think that's where I'm the greatest. It's where I add the most value, I think. And it's where I'm able to serve best, is helping people reestablish credit, and sort of getting things back on track.
Very nice. So everybody's got this journey they go on, right? Mm-hmm. Some people come right out of the womb and they know exactly what they're doing. They do that for their whole life.
I'd love to meet those people. I think they're great. I'm sure they're great.
A little less prevalent today's day and age than it was back in the day, but there are still a few. Go to school, come out with a degree, know exactly what they're doing, do that for their whole life. And then others, a few stepping stones here or there. And then some people are like the Mazda commercial, just zooming all over the place left and right.
Absolutely. Those are my people.
Tell our listeners.
Those are my ADD people. Where are you guys at? I'm over here.
Tell our listeners a little bit about your journey leading up to what you're doing today.
So sorry, say that again.
Tell our listeners a little bit about your journey leading up to what you're doing today.
Okay. So I know how cliche this has become, but it is the truth. So therefore I will repeat. So COVID was the time of great reflection for so many. And I'll speak to my own experience of it. So I am an ADD to its core. So when I had to stay still on a physical, personal, all realms of life, I went deep in and I reflected deep. And a lot came up for me at that time about where I wanted the next 10 years of my life. What did I want it to look like? Why wasn't I as happy as I should have been? And yes, I mean, everything was crazy at that time, but it just forced that reflection, and I'm very much the kind of person, I'll reflect for a while, but then I need the to-do list. Otherwise I just loop, and I can't stay in the loop like we all do. So then it became, okay, what's the next step? So I started to really dive into where can I make the most impact? Because I need that as a recharge for myself. I need to know that I'm being of service in some way. So it was impact. It was my kids and spending that time with them, although we were all going loopy at one point, which we can all understand. It was how much I valued it. And so the next few years, I knew I wanted control of my time. I knew that I wanted to serve. And then as I believe things happened, this was recommended to me through a friend that said, oh, I think you'd be really great at this. And I remember saying, oh, absolutely not. Like, I'm not interested in numbers. Like, I'm not interested. And then he said, I'm in the business of people. And I was like, no, you're not. And I'm like, I don't believe you. And so it got my attention at just the right time as things happen. And I started doing research, went through schooling and the certification, and then started doing it like, okay, sure. And then my first few clients, my first time home buyer, that completely changed my perspective and outlook. And here we are.
Cool journey. It's always fun asking that question. It's one of my favorite questions to ask. Everybody's got a bit of a different journey and how they got to what they're doing. And obviously the passion exudes through the conversation, which is always fun to watch. So I had something similar. I mean, COVID shut us down. I was in the automotive industry at the time where I was doing marketing for an automotive marketing firm. We would help automotive dealers retain their clients. And at that time, they had one of every color of every make and model.
Right.
So their lots were full and they were always looking to try to be able to turn over that inventory. So we were able to do both of those things at the same time. And then COVID hit, and Taiwan is the largest chip manufacturer in the world, microchips.
Right.
They actually produce 60% of the world's microchips in one plant, and Apple takes 60% of that. The car industry takes 20% of that 60%, and Canada typically is one of the last to get the cars. So I watched everything I built for 9 years sky plummet into the ground, and then 9 years of building something up from nothing and watching it all go away was a pretty wild ride.
Yeah.
So I ended up making a switch. I think in COVID, we've heard it numerous times on the show and in our interactions out there that give you that time for self-reflection to see what's truly important and what's truly valuable. The world is such a busy place, and we were just kind of put the blinders on a little bit and just go to work, go do this and that, yada, yada. And then you get some serious time to reflect and find out what truly makes me happy.
Yeah.
And then making that switch. So happy you found that happiness.
I think it's the craziest thing. And this is, again, so cliche, but here you go. Never in a quadrillion years would I have ever anticipated being where I am now, and the mindset that I have now, and the goals and the things I want and prioritize. Like, this version of me versus that version of me would have passed each other on the street. Like, it's the most unreal thing that I could have experienced, being that version of me and being this version of me. You make a plan and the universe says, just kidding, and forget your plan. Here's mine. You might like it better though. You just got to get over the ups, downs, and dark valleys that you're about to go through in order to figure that out. So that's amazing. That's crazy, but amazing.
Love your story. So tell us a little bit about the industry. Are there any myths, any misconceptions out there?
I mean, yeah, probably. The one that I think irks me the most, I like that word. Irk's a great word. Trustworthiness. And then I think the same could be said for any profession, in fairness. So the lack of trustworthiness, and then everybody gets painted with the same brush, right? So you have one experience with a bad agent for a variety of reasons, and then all agents are untrustworthy or whatever. And that, for me, I think is the biggest challenge, because I don't know that it's the person as it is the mindset. So I'm of the kind of understanding that you just haven't found your people. And it's okay to be very selective with your people. And this is what I mean. Whether it is a mortgage agent, whether it is your car salesman, whether it is your insurance agent, whatever that means, it's going to take you some time to do some vetting. And that's okay, because I'm sure it's a very frustrating process. But once you find your people that you trust, those are it. Then the big things in life don't feel so big and they don't feel so overwhelming. And so that is something that I myself, I can only preach what I live. I have created and still continue to create a very solid network of people that I trust, that I don't necessarily invite to Sunday dinner all the time, but I would. So I have my agent, I have my insurance person, I have my financial advisor, and this took a long time to establish, and it continues to change. But we are in the realm of relationships, and it is important to understand that you need your people. You had a bad experience, and I totally understand that. We're not all the same, but you just haven't found your people, because once you do, you got one for a while. So I think that's my biggest issue is sort of that trustworthiness based on a bad experience with someone, and then how that sort of spills into that sort of feedback that we hear a lot from an industry perspective.
Okay, so give the carte blanche, not a second chance, because it's a different person.
Yeah,
give that person the real opportunity to be able to prove themselves. And obviously,
absolutely,
education is a big component. When someone teaches you something and they don't ask for anything in return, that's a good way to build trust.
100%. You really, and it takes time, and that's what I mean. We don't all have lots of time, right? So it's like it takes time to build relationships, but then those are the people that you're going to trust with your friends, with your sister, with your best cousin. And then that's who you pass down, odds are, to your kids, right? So for the longest time, it was my dad who told me who to talk to about my first car. It was my dad at the time who said, "Okay, go talk to this guy for accounting." And that's who I went to. That's who I trusted, because he had been with them for so long. So if we can also understand, these are long-term relationships with very specific purposes, but then they can become, I should say, with you for a while, and with you for the big moments.
Love it. So in our lives, especially as business owners,
yeah,
we're really passionate about what we do. So work doesn't really feel like work, does it?
Not always, no.
Right.
I mean,
so
1 a.m.s are hard, not going to lie, they happen. But I mean, I still love it. Yes.
And so when we go to work, it doesn't really feel like work, and therefore dumping in extra hours here and there, it's not that difficult, because we truly enjoy what we do. But before I was using this word balance, it's not really a balance, because balance means everything is equal.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And we kind of tend to work more than we play. So I like to say it's a harmony between the two of them. Finding that tune that just got the right melody, it makes everything work, right? So when you're not working on or in your business, what does Steph like to do for fun? You
will find Steph in the garden.
Nice. A green thumb. Look at that.
Very dirty. I love it. Like I mean I'm actually in soil and dirt. And I talk to my plants, just so we're clear. And I'm proud that I talk to my tomatoes. Like, I love gardening. You will find me in the kitchen, because I love to cook very much. Weekends, I love getting a coffee and going to local vendor markets and going to local artisan shops. I absolutely love that sort of energy of local. You will hear me, I'm very eclectic in music. You'll hear me blaring country and then blaring like Metallica. It just depends on the mood. But that's what you're going to hear in my truck. Yeah. So
my mom's always been the gardener. As I was, my early teenager years, started, getting the muscles and help my mom out in the garden with the tiller and getting the soil right. So I've always kind of just been around that, you pick up some things here or there. And then in the pandemic, we had nothing to do. So like everybody else, right? You're doing stuff around the backyard, around the house, in the house, out the house, whether you're putting in the kitchen, getting new appliances, or you're outside farting around in the backyard. And so for me, I started off with 2 gardens that turned into 5 gardens that turned into trying to grow every vegetable on the planet.
Yep.
Almost successfully did that.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who are thinking that Steph's crazy, if you're listening right now because she talks to plants, I am here to tell you that is a real thing. I watched my sister do it, and she took a plant that was like literally on the verge of death and brought this thing back.
Yep.
And they're kind of starting to come out with things to say, like, act like facts. Like, hey, they like to be talked to,
Thank you. I appreciate that because, yep. My kids kind of look at me like, Mommy, they're not going to answer you. I'm like, first of all, not in the way you're thinking.
Yeah.
My kids are like, oh, whatever, and walk away.
They're going to blossom and bear me some fruit, and we're going to enjoy a great salad.
Right. It's true.
So, yeah, gardening is a thing I picked up in the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Certainly like the country music. We have a lot of things in common. Love to cook as well, and my fiance loves to cook as well. A little bit more of a passion than I do, and I'm pretty passionate about it. She used to own a restaurant when she was like 18, and for like 4 years, her and her friends and her parents bought into a restaurant, and like this woman can cook, and it's great. We love hosting people and all that good stuff. Nothing better than hanging out with people you care about, cooking good food, and having a great conversation. Yeah.
The idea of company, like literally like having company over. I grew up with that. So I remember I remember Friday nights, Saturday nights with my parents, and we always had extra treats in the cupboard that you weren't allowed to touch. And like, that was because it was for company, because company would just stop by. You didn't know who necessarily, like it wasn't pre-planned necessarily, except for a couple hours before, but you had company because you chatted, and it didn't matter what the house looked like because the treats were fresh. Like it was such a beautiful, simple thing that we don't have company just come by like we used to, right? It's just we're busy, we're tired. It's just a bit different now, but it's a beautiful thing to enjoy.
I just remember being like 14 through 17. My parents would always have people over Friday, Saturday nights.
Yeah.
And I'd be in charge of the double-decker 6 CD tray in each one, working the shuffle button.
Yeah, that's amazing. Or if you took a CD out, like I remember I would borrow a CD, and like my dad would go to where is it? And I'd be like, oh, like it's in my car, or like I don't know. Like anyway, because you take one out. Yeah.
I remember one time my parents had a Halloween party. And for like 2 weeks before, we would go as a family and drive by to these random places. And I didn't really know what was going on at the time.
Yeah. But
the amount of effort they put into this just strives me to really put added effort, because people just don't do that anymore. Yeah. So here's an idea. If anybody's listening and they want to really make an impact with their friends, is you do a car rally. So you have them come over at like 5 o'clock on a party. Normally they'd come over like 6, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so they almost don't even hit the door. They all come at the same time. They come 5 o'clock sharp. They all come in the house, and then you hand them a map with handwritten directions. Go this many kilometers, make a left onto this street.
And then landmarks.
Okay. Everybody's used to doing, just punch it into the GPS, and 100%. Then you're eventually going to run into a Subway. Go in and ask Johnny for a napkin with the word X on it. And he did like 5 or 6 different places.
Oh my God.
And he went into the businesses and said, hey, I'm going to have 5 people come in between this time and this time, and they're going to ask you for this specific thing. Do you mind? Would you be down for this? And everybody was.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
So they had to pick up specific items from these different places and then come back. And then whoever won the car rally won like a little prize. And then they would start their night.
That's amazing.
So there's a little.
You had an escape room kind of esque, not really, like not as difficult. But that's fun.
Yeah, you just gotta. It's like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, like it's a treasure hunt.
You gotta use a map, like a real map, like a real human being. Like, can't use technology. Waze is not going to help you on this one.
Oh my God. And like, I don't know, like, I don't necessarily know. I just know landmarks. So make a left at Burger King and then a right at Subway. And I'd be like, okay. Or my husband, okay, go north. I'm like, no, no, no. Don't north south me.
Don't north me.
Am I going left? Where am I going left? What's there? And like, I'll get there. No problem. But don't give me south of, no, I don't want to hear that. It's not how this brain works. No.
Have you ever done a gourmet club?
No.
Okay, this is one we're starting up. We're going to start it up this year. I've been wanting to do it for a couple of years, but so you grab 3 other couples,
okay,
right? That you're close with, that you would want to do the socializing and stuff like that. You always skip December because it's just too busy for everybody. So you go November, Jan, Feb, and March.
Okay.
Because those are the winter months. Those are when like you need stuff to look forward to.
Yeah.
And then you do a gourmet club. So each couple takes turns at hosting in those months. So it's only one weekend in the month. So it's not a whole lot. And then they're tasked with theming the event, finding the costumes for the event. Okay. And then the theme has to go with the food, the ambiance. So you like, we're doing Mexican tonight, or we're going to do Asian, or we're going to do traditional American. And then you have your point value system, like X amount of points for the ambiance, X amount for presentation on the food, and the costumes, and like how much effort. So you're putting in a lot of effort, but your job is to wow the people. And so when it's your turn, for those like myself, I like doing that. So it's fun for me to do that. But what's even better than that is now for the other months you get to go get wowed by your friends, and then you get to rate them. And then whoever's got the most points at the end, I don't know, they win a little prize. Everybody puts in a little something for a fun gift. I love that. Or whatever.
I love stuff like that. I think that's amazing.
We might have to talk on the other side about this gourmet club stuff.
Gourmet club. And I also just the idea of not cooking. Like, I mean, I love to cook. Don't get me wrong. I really do. But I love to eat. Just being honest. So like going out for dinner, like trying new food, like it's one of our things. Like I love it. New restaurant, let's try it. Like we love it. We love eating. We love sort of, again, what that creates. So that just sounds amazing.
I'm really looking forward to my honeymoon because I have been to Rome. I had the best meal of my life in Rome. Mm-hmm. Top 5 actually in my life was at Bayside Variety here in Barrie. For those who don't know that place, super nice place. But we're going to go to Malta. We're going to Rome. We're going to Sicily, and then we're going up to France. And so since we're on the food train, I am so pumped to go out there because the food in Italy is phenomenal. France, I'm sure is really.
I don't know how packed your schedule is, and I would imagine it's incredibly packed. But Tuscany was
on the list. It was on the list.
Life-changing for me. And I mean, it's Rome. It's stunning. But Tuscany changed. Like, it is exactly what the pictures are. There is no filter. Like, for every picture you've seen of Tuscany, it is exactly like that. And we stayed at a like a, I guess, a bed and breakfast kind of thing is what you translate it as. And Loredana, I have the info. She lived on that farm her whole life, and she's sort of the head cook. And you go down and you help her make the dinner, and then you go eat it. And everything is sourced on the land. Everything. It's the most incredible thing I ever experienced.
Getting me excited. It was on our list. We actually removed it. We were going to do Tuscany and then Venice. And then we switched it for Sicily. It's a couple of other things we had on our list, but that'll still probably remain on my list of places to go. Now you're making me second guess myself, Steph.
I'm just saying, and like it's beautiful. Like you know what I mean? Like you're never gonna regret anything. Yeah. But Tuscany, it was just different. Like it just hit different because it's just I'm like, this isn't real. Like I said a few times, like, this is not real life. Like this is fake. Nothing looks like this. And just, it was, the most simple living. It was just, I said, you guys could leave me here. I would not be upset. This is also way before kids. Like this was, we went a long time ago, but yeah.
So in life, we pick our path, right? We decide this is the path I'm going to walk, the path of life. And then No one ever said it was going to be easy, because it never is. There's always things that happen in our life.
Yeah.
And as human beings, we experience hardships, life challenges. Sometimes people experience tragedies. Some people experience them more than others. It's just part of life. But what's always fascinated me is human beings and their ability to be able to overcome these things.
Yeah.
And how we look at things, right? It's the right mindset has a lot to do with it. Seeing the glass half full, being able to pull silver linings from things, and then move forward, right? Because we have to move forward. That's life. Time goes on and we have to go on with it.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask if you've ever experienced a hardship, a life challenge that maybe overcame, maybe made you better, maybe made you stronger, maybe you took some silver linings from it.
I think I would safely say that starting my business was one of the scariest, hardest things I've ever done. And I say that because I had to disconnect from a lot of people. I started to realize I was trying to convince people that I wasn't crazy and that I had to trust myself. And it was very much a place coming from, I just didn't feel right. Like, it was a dark chapter for me years ago where I'm like, why don't I feel right? I should be super happy. I have so much to be grateful for. And I do. I'm just so blessed. And it's like, but something's not right. Like, I just don't feel right. So everything made sense and lined up in the way that I always sort of organized it and was told this was the way it was supposed to be. And this is what's safe and all of those things. And then we had children, and I realized, is this what I want to create as their standard? Right? Because children, that you create the standard of success and you create the standard of happiness for your children. So taking sort of, as I approach my later years, not later, but as I approach 40, do I begin the process of starting something new, starting over? Do I trust myself? Am I nuts? Like, am I crazy? Am I doing this? Am I taking this leap? Am I disconnecting from things and people that I've known for the better half of my life? Some friends, some family, where it's like, am I doing this? Am I sure I'm doing them? I'm not sure about anything, but you do it anyway, because you start to really, you learn to trust yourself and trust your gut. And this is what I think is right. And there's no right decision in life. You just make a decision and you make it right. And sort of you go off of that. So it's been a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of tears, a lot of joy. And where old relationships ended, new relationships have begun that I couldn't have possibly imagined. So I think one of the hardest things I've ever done is trust myself enough to start this and to create something for myself based solely on myself. So, yeah.
When you go into business, or you decide you would do that for the first time, and especially if you're surrounded by a lot of people who aren't in business, it's difficult for them because they've never done it. So it's easy to say the opposite, because you're the one taking the risk. They're the one who's not. Try to pull you back and stay down to my level, and so on and so forth. So I'm kind of reading between the lines a little bit there. And I'm happy you decided to make the jump, because it's absolutely phenomenal. And no, it's not easy. There are your high times and there's certainly your low times. And it's that ability to be able to battle through that, because you don't have anybody to answer to, and nobody's going to do it for you. You're the only person who's in the driver's seat. And so if you take your foot off the gas, well, you're not going to go fast enough. A lot of times I come across business owners, and I had a world famous marketer say this to me, and or not to me directly, but I was watching some educational content, and it's like, business owners come to me all the time and say that they're stressed, right? Well, guess what? You're always going to have stress. It's stressful when your business is going backwards. It's stressful when your business is not moving forward and staying stagnant, and it's stressful when it grows. So deal with it.
100%.
It's stressful.
All of it. It's beautiful. It's just, you ride it. You have to. That's the thing. It's like I've never dreamed that like, again, that me 10 years ago would have never envisioned myself capable of doing this and handling this in the way that I'm handling it and juggling it the way I like. It's crazy how you go into business like I'm taking control of my time and you are, like, it's like you said, like, you don't have a boss to answer to kind of thing. But then you realize you are the boss. So there's no one to blame. There is no one. If it's not going fast enough, that's because you're not going fast enough. If it gets too big, too quick, it's like, well, how are you going to deal with it? So it's one of those things where you have to learn quickly to gain a very good sense of yourself. And if you don't have it, you get it quick. And that's part of that sort of growth where you figure yourself out as you're figuring it out. And yeah. And for those that don't know, it's so easy to be like, you're nuts. Like, you're crazy. And it's like, maybe, probably, but I'm going to go this way anyway.
Steph, tell us one thing that you wish your listeners knew about your business.
I wish my listeners knew that money is just a skill. Finances is just a skill. And you can practice a skill. And you can learn a skill at any point. And money is not separate in our lives. And I've come to learn that as well from a personal level. So the quality of your relationships, the quality of how you take care of yourself, the quality of your physical spaces, and how you approach money and the mindset that you have with money is not separate. It is all connected. And find people, work with people, surround yourself with people that understand that. So like you said, I don't think balance is real. There's harmony. You can harmonize your life. You can't balance it because balance just comes with guilt. Because if I didn't do this, I didn't work out today. If I didn't align things perfectly and then I'm out of balance, it's like, no, you're not. You're not out of balance. But it's how you harmonize things. So I wish people really understood that work with people that see you as a whole and not as sections. Not sections to you. You come as a whole. And it's all the same. It's all connected. That's what I wish they knew.
Well, with that mic drop, I think definitely there's going to be some people who are interested that say, man, this girl, I need to learn a little bit more. I want to get to know her a little bit more. I've got some questions now. And so for those who are, what would be one of the best ways that they can go ahead and do that?
To get in touch with me, stephc.ca is my website, and all my handles are there. I've got my Instagram, my Facebook, my actual website is, like I said, it's stephc.ca, and it comes directly to me, and I tend to respond pretty quick. So that'd be the best way to get in touch, get in contact.
Love it. Well, super happy to have you on board. That was a phenomenal conversation. Got to learn a couple of things, got to get to know you a little bit more on a personal level, which is awesome. Another community member who's super, super deep within our community. Seems like she cares a lot about who she works with and has a good business. So thanks a lot for coming on and doing this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.